Everybody, and welcome back to another week of the Five Guys on Live, where we have joining us special guest Benji DaCosta. How are you, Benji? Welcome to Five Guys on Live. This is your first
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
on
I've
Live.
heard
We
so many
have
great
joining us
things,
special guest
and
Benji DaCosta. How are you, Benji? Welcome.
Who is that?
You can't watch while streaming. Is somebody watching while streaming? Benjamin, I'm willing to bet you any amount of money. It is the earbuds. Typically, I find that any kind of artificial headwear can cause odd things to happen. So just consider disconnecting those. We're happy to have you with us. It's going to be a great lineup. We have a lot of big things to talk about. Starting off with this Netflix special from everybody's favorite comedian, or so it was seen based upon the massive feedback you people have given me, Dave Chappelle. Now, for those of you who are watching, please do join in. And that's right, James. Here we go. I know that you have been waiting. You know what, James? Let me tell you something. You have been waiting all week to hear what we would have to say about Dave Chappelle, and now you are going to get it, and I hope that you never see it. Dave Chappelle, hey Candy, it's great to see you, my love. Dave Chappelle came out with this special called The Closer on Netflix, and this special that he produced or came out with really was, in the eyes of many people, very funny. But towards the end, in the last 45 minutes of the special, he went on what I consider to be a rant against men and women who happen to be trans, and literally, in my opinion, leveraged and made a lot of comments that were very not only transphobic but also homophobic. But this opinion has not gone over very well or been popular in a number of communities, specifically in the Black community. So this is what I want to know from the guys as well as our viewers. What are your thoughts regarding this Netflix special? And should people who are angry about this, people like me, should we be upset and offended? I want to know your opinion and thoughts, and the door is open for commentary.
So I'll start. I
bet you will.
Don't get started. It's too early now. I have actually mixed emotions. And that's surprising coming from me, I know, right? One, I definitely understand how individuals who are part of those marginalized groups or underrepresented groups could feel that it was an attack on them. But then also, I am also thinking about, okay, are we really tying and digging too much into censorship of individuals as far as their free speech? And as a comedian, do we have the opportunities to also, you're always saying Rizak, do we have the opportunity to just censor individuals because of what they say about a particular group? I am one to believe that education is the key to a lot of things. But I, to be honest, I do have mixed emotions about it. And so I can understand both sides of the coin. I don't know.
Not find people on all sides, child. Here's my thing. I think that I agree with you, Zach, in terms of not censoring people, and everyone should have the free reign to say what they want to say. But when your language incites violence, or when it aligns with the same type of rhetoric that ends up having hundreds of trans people murdered every year, it's just too much. And I think that sometimes people use these same excuses, this same line of thinking that Dave Chappelle shared on this special to justify the killing of trans people. And so I think it was grossly negligent on his part, and it was also violent to people who identify as transgender. And more so than anything, I find it troubling that specifically, the transphobia that exists even within the homosexual community is what has been most troubling for me.
Gay men.
Because for gay people, and I posted about this on my Instagram, if a black person tells a white person that they interpret something as racist, we don't want to hear them say, "Oh, I'm not racist." We don't want to hear that. We want them to think about what it is that they've said and, agree to not do that again. Or we don't have to deal with each other. With gay people, if we consider something to be homophobic, if we tell someone that was homophobic, and we expect that you will adjust it. If you consider yourself an ally, you're not going to say anything homophobic moving forward. But for the transgender community to say something is transphobic and black gay people try to justify it is mind-baffling for me. So I just want all of us to take a closer look at the ways that we, as marginalized people, marginalize other people. So we have to always be thoughtful about the way that we interact with one another.
I know other people, and I would agree with that. Because as this was coming out, I love the Lord, and I was listening to my gospel stations, and this was the topic, and the topic was about should he be canceled, and people are quick to jump on canceling him when he talks about something doing with LGBTQIA plus, but when they talk about black issues and black concerns, we don't be quick to cancel or do anything for that. So why is one marginalized group? And I think that's the same thing he was saying in his special about the baby, but he talked about the gays and the trans and things that he was canceled quickly. But when he killed somebody, nobody wanted to cancel him then. And so I definitely agree. Marginalized people shouldn't marginalize others. Is that closure? Open your eyes.
I'm trying to be a better member of Five Guys on Live tonight by being calm and keeping my Sagittarius moon under control. Because really, this is what Zach, this is what you said, and it was really, really valid, and I really appreciate it. But herein lies the problem. When you talk about, people that cancel him, that's not true. Ask Zachary Kirk how many times I have watched a Dave Chappelle episode on Comedy Central, or how many times I have watched a Dave Chappelle special. It wasn't funny when he was mocking people who had drug abuse problems, who were disproportionately affected by a number of factors that were pushed upon the Black community by this government. I didn't laugh at that. I didn't think that was funny. And I definitely didn't think that it was done in any way to benefit the Black community. Dave Chappelle was making funny things for white people to laugh at Black people. And Black people also laughed at it, but that was always his audience. So I have never liked Dave Chappelle, and I have never benefited, or I have never liked Dave Chappelle. Even when I look at this man, he harkens back to a foolish comedy aesthetic that I have never been able to support. So it's no difference to say that, we didn't cancel him then. I've never supported him. That is a false dichotomy being sold by people that want to tear apart the whole concept of wokeism. This is not really about the trans community, even though he's using the most vulnerable element of the marginalized communities for his attack. This is really about capitalist America and conservative media and people that have lots and lots of money, like the CEO of Netflix, coming together and say, how can we start slowly putting an end to the cultural influence that people of color have in this country? And I'll tell you how we can do it. We take a Black man, a person of color, who has already survived cancel attempts, and we have him do the dirty work of the oppressor, and we make him attack the most vulnerable community, and then we will allow him to erode the influence of wokeism on Black people in this country. And not only that, but we will have the Blacks fight against the gays, and the gays fight against the trans, and the trans fight against the Asians, and together we will win. Because when these marginalized communities stand together, white supremacy is defeated. We saw that happen last summer, but we can't allow that to happen because they were able to cancel Mr. Pillow Man, who was supporting Donald Trump. They were able to cancel Goya Beans, that people were sitting there shoveling down their throats and passing gas. And now they had to put an end to it because we're affecting their bottom line, because you Blacks don't want to work anymore because you realize that slave wage labor was not appropriate. This is a full frontal attack against every marginalized person in this country. That's what it's really about. So no, it's not about not canceling him when he was playing like a crack addict. It's about canceling him every turn at every time and for every single person who wants to offend and endanger the lives of other people.
So you saying that this corporate America person sat back and thought of come on, Derek, thought of this whole conspiracy theory
Zach is
and said, we're gonna do this.
You know, Zach always has conspiracy theories like
that. That is not a conspiracy. That's a bigger picture.
But Zach,
listen. Follow the line of thinking. Look at how many times these organizations
I don't want to give them that much
power.
I
don't think so either.
At every corner. And I'm not saying that the CEO of Netflix did this. I'm saying this is a concerted effort by media companies and big money to put an end to the cultural influence of people of color who are canceling at a rate that is appropriate and impacting and affecting the bottom line. Because they know you're not going to cancel Dave Chappelle, and they know you're not going to cancel your Netflix. But you did cancel your Goya Beans.
I miss my Saison seasoning too. I miss it so bad. If y'all got some, send it to me.
For me, the thing when it comes to comedy is that comedy should always, like, if you're going to be that kind of comic, it should always be that you're punching up at like the people who are oppressing you or the people who are causing you pain, and should never punch down to people who may be more marginalized than you. It should never be that, because that's not funny. People are literally living in a struggle day in and day out, and you're just beating them down even more when they're just trying to survive on the street. The other thing too, I think with Dave Chappelle, I feel like he's so micro-focused on this relationship with this trans person that he was connected with, that he doesn't understand the macro impact that it has on a general community at the same time. So for him, he's like, oh, but I have this trans friend who gets me, who accepts me, and it gets these jokes, and I can go woo 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 with them. But at the same time, he's not seeing the greater impact of how it's really hurting trans people across the country. Because I think he's like, what I'm gathering is that this trans person was actually a white trans person. I don't know if that was true or not, but at the same time, he's associating this relationship with this alleged white trans person, that he's forgetting about all the trans people of color and the high rates of murder and violence and systematic oppression that they face day in and day out.
Yeah, Candace, I was definitely about to jump in, Benji, and say it's tantamount to, saying, well, I'm not racist. I have a black friend, knowing that the black experience, or, people who are black, our experiences aren't monolithic. So all of us have different experiences. And for you to tokenize your trans friend in that way, that was a lot more troubling than a lot of things he said, justifying it, like you said, Benjamin, by saying, this is my trans friend and this has been their experience. So it's wrong all the way around. I was less offended by the DaBaby comparison. I was more offended by the tirade that he went on for 45 minutes about the transgender community, just knowing the type of violence that they already endure. So I think that if we really want to be allies, we have to show up and make sure that we don't allow people like Dave Chappelle to further weaponize his rhetoric and to, make it more difficult for trans people.
So I didn't watch the special, just to put that out there. Probably won't. But I did see some of the commentary on IG with T.S. Madison, Flame, and two other activists who were talking about it. And so they all were having, and they're all trans women. And so they all were having a great discussion. I think I stayed on for a good 30 minutes listening to the discussion that they had. And so Flame, who was in support of Dave Chappelle, was all about, okay, I know this game. I know what it's about. I agree. I feel like comedy should be open because it is subjective, as somebody else said. But then you had the other people who were saying that, no, it was a dig at our community and going back and forth with Flame. So it's interesting that it's mixed views within that community as a whole as well.
But Zach, I want to say this. using Flame Monroe as a speaker for the trans community is just like using Candace Owens as a speaker for the Black community. But
I'm not using her as a speaker for the
no,
trans.
I'm not saying you are.
Several
I'm
trans
not
women
saying
in that
you are,
conversation.
but that is what society is doing, right? These rich media conglomerates have chosen Flame Monroe to be the mouthpiece to validate their transphobia. She is being used willingly so, because that's what people do to gain their own platform. But again, don't forget, Flame Monroe was the woman who happens to be trans who spoke out for Lil Boosie when he came and attacked Lil Nas X repeatedly. So that's what Flame Monroe did previously. Now Flame Monroe is coming out to defend Dave Chappelle. Again, a paid mouthpiece for transphobia. And that's what we have happening. And that is why I say that there is a bigger work at foot in this movement to tear down cancel culture.
And Flame Monroe identifies as a transgender man, just for the record. And go back and check out the Breakfast Club interview that Flame did. It was all over the place. Hotbed of crazy.
Yeah, I will not check that out because I will not be giving them any streams. I do apologize for misgendering Miss Flame, but nonetheless, I wouldn't take the time to watch that nor care about them. But what I do care about is our next topic. The whole name of tonight's show is, and let's just give James a moment, right? James, everyone, let's all take a moment for James. We'll take a moment of silence later for Colin Powell, but right now it's about you, James. We are talking comedy. No one is going to laugh at every joke. Most Black jokes are probably an issue, but get a pass if a Black person delivers. Would a trans person joke like this? It's the unspoken rule of comedy. You don't make fun of a group of person lower than you on the totem pole. I really don't know how to interpret that, but I appreciate you for typing it. And Giovanni, thank you so much for saying I haven't watched the special either. The most troubling part about all of this was the division that I saw specifically from Black gay men who didn't support trans women expressing how it hurt them. I guess it's not surprising, but it wasn't a slap in the face I expected from some of the people. But it was a slap in wasn't a slap in the face for some of the people I expected. I personally knew from sharing their thoughts. You know, I want to say this, and this is something that's really hard to hear. I've said it on my Instagram, and I'm going to say it here. Listen, many of the heterosexual, transphobic Black men and women who are very quick to defend Dave Chappelle and uphold Hotep beliefs are looking at these gay Black men who are defending Dave Chappelle in the same way they look at women who happen to be trans. They see a woman who happens to be trans trying to wear a dress, and they see a Black gay man also trying to wear a dress. Now, the Black gay men aren't trying to wear dresses, but in their minds, that's what they do. So they're the same thing, exactly the same thing to these transphobic straight people that hate them. However, I understand why so many Black gay men are desperate to have the approval of these transphobic, homophobic straight people, because these straight people are their family members and the people they grew up with and the people they love. And they are doing this because they want love back. The sad reality is these family members and these friends and these colleagues, classmates, and the people you see every day, they have hated you your whole life. They have been ashamed of you your whole life, and they will never accept you. So you seeking out straight approval is just like a Black person seeking out white approval. It is a continuous failing battle. Learn to love yourself. Learn to stand in solidarity with the people who are marginalized just like you. And maybe then one day a voice will come together that will change these systems of oppression. But you will not get it seeking validation from these people. And that's what they were doing, Giovanni, in my humble opinion.
Right. I would thank you for adding that part.
Well, you know, you don't think I'm accurate, Zach. You think I'm wrong, and it's okay if you do.
No, that's your opinion. I think you're entitled to it. And so, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily agree with all of it.
What part do you disagree with?
That you don't know what people, you said they would never accept you or approve you. You don't know what can change a person's heart.
Jesus.
Good.
Yeah, Jesus. And so and again, Jesus can fix it. The title of tonight's episode is Christmas is Canceled. We hope that will include a canceled subscription to Netflix as well as a cancellation to Chappelle. I doubt that it will in your household, but it's possible. Now, this is my question. Maybe Christmas will not be canceled for this family. DeAndre, tell us about a custody battle that is being waged in Baltimore.
Yeah, so there is a couple by the name of Maya and Shanti Sky. They are in Prince Charles County. They are a couple that have a recently born baby. The one who does not have the dread, she is Maya. She is a barber in Landover Hills, and she was having a conversation in the barbershop and talking to her counterparts about her wanting a baby. And the guy whose hair she was cutting, is single and said, he was interested in a baby as well. So they end up connecting with this gentleman. They talked about it and ended up coming together and drawing up a contract with him about having this actual baby. They did the fertilization at home, so they didn't go to a clinic to do it. And once the baby was did the fertilization at home. The problem they were dealing with is he really wasn't as active in the process. He wasn't really engaged in a relationship with them and trying to get to know them. And then he wasn't helping with some of the medical costs. Once the baby was born, wasn't there, hasn't really been connected with them. And so he hasn't been in the child's life. So now he's actually filing for full custody of the actual baby. And he's fighting with them. His lawyer is saying, oh, that's not he doesn't have it. That's not the case he's having right now. He has full intention of being in this child's life. They showed a picture of, him already having this decorated baby room, but this man who has not been active whatsoever through the process of childbirth now wants to take full custody of this child. And so I brought this discussion up because of the fact, for a couple of reasons. One, do you think they did this right? Two, do you think this father should actually do it a different way? And three, does he have any rights whatsoever? So I want to kind of bring this to the table and see what you all thought about this couple's fight and argument with the sperm donor of the child.
Wow. And again, Giovanni, that's insane. How do you file for custody and you have been president? James said he was just in it for the sex. He wants full custody so he doesn't have to pay child support. And unfortunately, that is kind of what it may seem. It seems like it was easier to decorate the bedroom than pay for child support. But gentlemen, this is a real issue. And I see when you're saying, Giovanni, it wasn't handled properly, and maybe it wasn't, but you guys got to think about the high cost of alternate routes to becoming a parent. If I were to have a child, I'm going to have that baby the old-fashioned way, and we're going to use some good government paid for, my job paid for, or her job paid for healthcare, because you already paid for it. So we're not going to go and do a whole bunch of extra egg pulling and cups and turkey basers. We just going to hop on in there, make this baby, and keep it moving. If that was the route, if I chose to be a father. But because again, the costs can be exorbitant. People are taking out massive loans, $100,000 plus sometimes, in order to have a family, a biological gift and right given to most human beings. So even though it may not have been done properly, it may have been done in the only way they could do to achieve their dream of being parents. But that's all I'll say, and I'll open the door up to you guys.
I just want to know the terms of the contract, because you said, right, DeAndre, that they had a contract in place.
Yeah. So and that I think is the sketchy thing, because they don't really talk in essence about the full details of what's in that contract. They're being real slick with that. But to Zach's point, though, and I'll get back to you, Darius. I'm sorry. To Zach's point, though, that it's almost like $50,000 at a time to actually do those kind of things. And to that point, to James saying he has natural rights, he may have natural rights, but depending upon what state you're in, first and foremost, if your name is not on that birth certificate, number one, that is one right already taken away from you because your name is on the birth certificate. Secondly, it's very hard in these days and times that a judge will take away a parent from the birth mother. Now, they did say, though, in this article, though, in this discussion, that these cases are not uncommon. these cases do happen, but you never really know what way it's going to go because of the judge. Because if you have a judge that believes that, for instance, if you have a judge who doesn't believe in gay marriage, now you have potential aspect where the father, he may provide the father an opportunity to give the actual mother, give the father an opportunity. So that's kind of that thing there. But right now we don't know what it says in the contract, Darius.
Okay, yeah. So that would be my first concern. I think that's why you have processes in place, and they may be expensive, just so you can avoid issues like this in the long run. Because who wants to be postpartum fighting for custody of a child and a parent has never been present with them? That's crazy to me. So I just even me thinking about being a parent one day, not any day soon. Zach said I need to chill out, but thinking about just custody and thinking about who's taking care of a child and how's the child going to be conceived and what are the costs associated with it, that's very stressful. So to add on top of that, now the dad wants a child, that's crazy to me. It's very crazy.
So I actually worked in LGBTQ health, particularly around this topic. So it's very tricky and intersectional. Missouri isn't known to have the most LGBTQ affirming healthcare in general, and then to add reproductive healthcare for same-sex partners, practically non-existent. So there's some kind of confusion when it comes to reproductive health. So when it comes to same-sex receptive partners, so people who are assigned female at birth, the costs are extremely lower than people who are assigned male at birth, because going to a sperm bank or anything like that is typically so much cheaper because there's so many options to choose from. However, the part that gets really expensive is the actual implantation of the sperm for that person, because the receiver's body has to accept that, and their eggs have to connect with that. So sometimes it's a genetic thing where they struggle and they have to go through hormones and all of these things. But then also at the same time, some people just don't want to go through all the needles and stuff, so they choose to go through the old-fashioned method. Yes, doing kind of a side contract. I don't know if they consulted with lawyers or not, but if you decide to do that, you can go to Legal Shield or any one of these membership-based things and have a lawyer review your contract for free. So if you want to do something on the side, just have a lawyer look at it and be like, is this cool? Is this going to meet all your expectations on both sides? Because if you don't do that and you just do a handshake promise, then it's unfortunately you drop the ball in that aspect. But historically, family courts err on the side of the mother, and you have to prove a very strong case as a father figure of why the mother cannot take adequate care of that child.
And the other part in Maryland that you have to deal with is Maryland has their laws, of course, presumes the natural father and natural mother. According to the law in Maryland, the natural father and natural mother are custodians. Now, the law in Maryland does not necessarily favor either the mother or the father. And a lot of times, particularly for the judge uses the best of interest child standard. And so based on that standard, there are multiple factors within the best interest of child standard that a judge can go through. Not all the judges actually uses all the standards. They can use just one standard and base their decision off that one standard. And if that one standard feels as if if that judge says that this child is not good with two mothers, and that judge decides that a father is a better choice than that, then that's the one standard that judge can use in the state of Maryland. And so these are the kind of laws that, we talk about all the time about putting these people in position and places. These are also we have to consider as well when these lawmakers are making these laws. And so state of Maryland is one of those ones that doesn't favor either, but it does provide based upon the situation. So that's what they're dealing with now. And that's the fear that these two women have.
I want to rewind for a second. Zach, you said you're going to shoot the club up. Is that what you said earlier? Kirk.
That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. That's
Look,
exactly what he said.
Well, all right now. I just want to be an
I
uncle. I'm Uncle
believe
D.
I believe in using the gifts that God has equipped us with to reproduce. And moving on from there, I think that Tanya made a good point earlier. She said it's more expensive to raise a child than pay child support. He may just want to be a part of the child's life. That's very possible. But sometimes people are not aware of the cost of raising a child. And some people do a really bad job of that. It all sounds like a mess, and I agree with that as well. It certainly sounds like a mess. Now,
it's vindictive. That's vindictive because you can be a part of that child's life without seeking full custody, knowing that you have
Christmas may be canceled for that family because he's not paying his child support. But more importantly, he's trying to just come in there and steal the whole child. It's like literally a Christmas story in reverse. There will be a baby in swaddling clothes in a manger, but it'll be in the father's at the father's house. So Zach is an educated thug. He's a gangster with his. Let me tell you who isn't a gangster with theirs, and that's Joe Biden, who takes us right now into another reason why tonight's episode is called Christmas is Canceled, because if you haven't purchased your gifts, you won't be getting any due to this issue right here. This is the American supply chain issue. Now, I know that you might finally be hearing about this. This has been an issue that has been talked about for 2 years, really even when the pandemic began. I remember in the very beginning of the pandemic talk, people were talking about this is going to have a huge effect on supply chain. And it's not just the United States, but that's where we live. This is a global supply chain issue. And it is getting to be really badly. We are seeing the impacts of this in our schools. School lunches for kids all across America are being impacted because there isn't enough food being shipped. Sometimes the orders are arriving. It's impacting a number of industries. Gentlemen, I want to know if you have any firsthand experience with this yourself, but I want to share this graphic. This is a graphic that talks about and shows right here the different industries that are already being impacted. I'm going to make it large. Reportedly, right now, manufacturing, construction, retail, trade are the largest industries that are reporting delays and issues around supply chain, and followed by retail, wholesale, and then food services. These things are already happening. That's right, Tanya, absolutely correct. Schools, restaurants, and grocery stores. People are talking about the increase in prices for grocery. This is a large part of why grocery prices are going up, because there is a huge demand, but there is a small supply that is making it to the American consumer. But again, this isn't just happening in America, it's happening all around the world. Some of this can also be traced back to President Trump and his anti-China policies, when China is one of the largest manufacturers of goods shipped to the United States in America, shipped to the United States from abroad. All of this having a massive impact. Definitely being reported that some of the things that we typically buy for Christmas will be impacted. Televisions, computers, toys, and of course, cars. All of these things now being impacted because parts and supplies are not able to get here. Gentlemen, do you know the effect or any industries that have been affected? And do we think that there is anything that should be done that isn't being done? The floor is open.
If I go to another restaurant and they talk about they don't have wings, I'm gonna lose my mind. I was at a restaurant this past weekend and they didn't have wings. I know Wingstop started selling thighs because there's a shortage with chicken wings. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm hungry. But so that's the only shortage that I've heard of. And I know that the prices in the grocery store have gotten insane. So I'm not sure if these are connected, but something definitely needs to be done, especially as we are approaching the holidays and people will be spending that check. But I mean, maybe not if they can't get what they want. So there definitely needs to be something done to mitigate that issue.
I also think it's interesting, and this actually shows the ripple effect that things have on each other, solely because, like, even with not a short on alcohol, even with like the truck drivers, there's a shortage on people driving trucks and can't get to the place. The delivery with the United States Postal Services, they're up and the cost, but then they also are taking longer to get here. And so all of this has a ripple effect, and it's just interesting how we don't discuss that ripple effect that things have on each other, that affect our society and our day-to-day living, and also how we take things for granted. Even the price of gas, if we ain't talked about that, is going up because of these issues as well. And she's slowly going up to $4 on this side of the United States.
And Zach, that's where I was kind of going to go with that, because like, even as you're talking about the ripple effect, even when I look at, other job and other markets, I had, unfortunately, my trash compactor here has been backed up literally for like 2 weeks, because we've had managers say they have to get in trucks because now they have to come, because people aren't coming back to work. People won't, they can't get people in the building to actually do it. And so even when you think about the port or down in Savannah, there are actually things like, for instance, there is still stuff sitting down in the ports of Savannah because they just can't get people to work. And it's not, for some people, they feel like it's not worth it. And so we have to now start having the conversation about how do we get these people to work to make it accessible, not only them to make it good for them, but that we can actually get the economy moving in that direction. So just people aren't working, and that's them. They have the ability, just that it's not feasible for people to do it.
Well, that goes. Okay, Benji, I'm sorry.
No, so I actually live in a port city here in Miami. And if you look out on the ocean front and the bay front, you just see container ship after container ship after container ship chilling off the coast because there's a backlog just at the port. Like you were saying earlier about just trying to get staffing to get the stuff off the ships. Also, what caused a lot of the production hold up too is because over in China and various places where we get our goods from, they've been having COVID outbreaks or lack of staffing over there. And so it's getting out of the warehouses slower. So we can't really pin it on one point or another, like a singular person, because it's a complete cause and effect of all this stuff. Yes, there's some mishaps and people are dropping the ball, but it's not solely responsible on one particular person. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody has their flaws, but at the same time, we just have to understand, we have to be resourceful during this time and stop relying on so many things overseas, because we have a big ass country and we have so many resources here. Like you were saying, the schools are waiting on food from overseas. What? Why are we relying on food from overseas when we have gardens and fresh food that we could be pulling from? Because we shouldn't be feeding our kids that crap anyways. So I'm just saying, it should be made in the U.S., but also at the same time, we need to have plans in place for when there are supply chain shortages and emergency plans. Because I remember in the 70s and 80s when there was a gas shortage, there was no plan in place. But now we do. We know how to get gas all over the country if it was short somewhere.
And Randall makes a really good point when Randall says those congressional Democrats. Randall, in actuality, I'm so glad that James corrected you and I didn't have to, so I could be the good guy. It's really the Republicans. Let me tell you what I mean when I say that. President Biden wanted to, well, that goes to the next topic. We're getting ready to go into the topic. DeAndre already hit on it. This is a topic, again, a record number of U.S. workers have quit their jobs. So that is a part of one of the three major things affecting the supply chain crisis. Number one, of course, is the national impact and the international impact of COVID-19, which could have been easily mitigated had congressional Republicans supported the work to make this country safe, but they didn't. Instead of supporting the work of making America a safer place, they worked hard to undermine those efforts and make America a COVID-19 hotspot for months at a time. In addition to the impact of the COVID-19 endemic on the supply chain, we also have the entire number of people, not only resources from overseas, but right here in America, a number of workers who are not willing to work. Exactly as Darius said, we have entire huge cargo ships full of resources that can't get unloaded because we don't have workers. President Joe Biden and congressional Democrats wanted to pass a national minimum wage of $15 to avoid the American workers from quitting, which they did in record numbers in August. We now have a total of 4.3 million people quitting their jobs in 1 month when you don't have a federal minimum wage. We know for a fact that in states where the minimum wage is $15 or higher, you have fewer job vacancies. But in places like Georgia, where you have Brian Kemp as the flawed, failed, moronic, idiotic governor, you have people quitting left and right. And I can't say that I blame them. And adding unfortunate insult to injury is the national media response. I watched this week with George Stephanopoulos on Sunday, as I do every Sunday, and the commentary around this topic was insulting. It was like these really classist capitalists didn't even know how offensive they were sounding as they were insulting the American worker. It's kind of like when you have a white racist who's making racist statements without knowing they're making racist statements. That's exactly what I got from these commentators or the people I'm seeing on these clips in social media about the topic. The problem here is that the American worker is not being paid enough while the American owner is making money hand over fist, and that is what must stop. So instead of figuring out how can we pay a livable wage to the American worker and give them the rights and the freedoms that they deserve as a worker, let's figure out how to shame them and abuse them back into slave-like wage slavery. And that's part of the problem. So I support them. I don't have a problem with, not being able to get my chicken wings. I don't have a problem with canceling Christmas if it's going to lead to the improvement of life for the American wage earner, because the way that people are expected to live in this country is disrespectful.
I just want to add to that. In my state, we have Governor Ron DeSantis, who is like Trump 2.0. Yeah, horrible person. But I was just looking at some statistics by Business Insider, and $15 an hour wouldn't even cut it in Florida. The average hourly rate that you need to live in Florida is $20.68 to afford a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment. And that's in Central Florida. I live in Miami, where rent prices are almost double. And so you would need at least $35, $40 an hour just to survive here in South Florida. And in Georgia, the hourly rate that you need to survive is $16.79. So $15 an hour is still poverty. And in Florida, we tried to raise the minimum wage, and it's still at $10 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the minimum wage in Georgia is still $7.25. It's been that for at least 10 years, because I was making $7.25 when I was flipping burgers and duty and fries at McDonald's 10 years ago. And so there definitely is a need for us to increase the minimum wage, because I can imagine living today off of what I made while I was, working for minimum wage. I can't imagine what bills are you able to pay with that amount of money. So I just hope that for people who are still having to, make minimum wage, or, having several jobs in order to make a living, I hope for them that, this does happen so that everyone can have a fair chance at, living life in a fruitful way.
And DeAndre said, he ain't canceling Christmas. It ain't about no gifts. It's about the Lord. It's about the Lord. But again, I'll give up money for other people to live a decent life and not live hand to mouth. It's not okay. I agree with that. I'll give up some money too. I'll give up some gifts and some celebrations. Giving up that liquor, though, may be a challenge. We'll end up just like the people on The Walking Dead, making our own liquor the best way that we can as we
Not
live.
Bootlegging.
You said what happened?
Not bootlegging, child.
We will bootleg our way through. And James said, can he have your gifts, DeAndre?
What gifts are we talking about?
Anna. That wasn't reasonable.
Reasonable.
That was shady.
So, right, we're not giving up liquor. Candy, of course, does not drink now one drop. And again, the problem is nobody is giving them Christmas gifts. Not enough people, not going to happen. I'm inclined to, but what I am doing is buying just a little bit early as we prepare for this and as we go through this moment to then talk about our, many people canceling Christmas, but they're not going to get their liquor. But they're also, maybe need to be canceling football, but you people want to still watch that too. Zach Thomas, tell us about your favorite coach in the NFL, Gruden.
I wouldn't say he's my favorite coach, because Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints, who that nation. John Gruden has resigned as the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders because recently some emails have surfaced back when he was with the Washington football team. And he used a lot of homophobic, misogynist language within the emails. And in his letter, he states, "I have resigned as head coach of the Los Angeles Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of the Raiders Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone."
Wait.
So,
This voice.
my question to the group, being that a lot of people and the NFL has kind of made this switch to be doing a lot for Black Lives Matter, social justice issues, but yet they had this coach who was highly revered, making these statements for years in his emails to people. Are they doing enough?
It's always,
and should they bring Colin back?
Yeah, I'm weak. Colin ain't think about them people.
It's too late. I mean, the window of opportunity for Colin has come and gone.
Right.
And he is one of my favorite people on the planet. Zachary Kirk and Colin Kaepernick share a birthday, November 3rd. So
Wow.
I absolutely adore the man, but his moment has come and gone. And the work that we should have done for him, the moment has passed because we were scared to cancel. Because people like you, Zach Thomas, fight against cancellation.
He just want to counsel the people, He don't want to counsel them. He want to counsel them, make them better, make them whole.
Right. I mean, we can. If that was the case, Zach, you probably would have been canceled a long time from people. And so, understanding that you have to cancel and educate people,
and my friend would be just fine. He would be just fine. He would. He would.
Let me say this.
You don't have to say other thoughts.
Zach Thomas, what would be the offense that would warrant my cancellation?
Do you want to say this on live?
Ooh.
Say it on live. Since you said it, because I know that I am guilt-free of anything that would warrant cancellation.
All right,
One
now,
would be your closed-mindedness, Zach. You're not open to understanding others' point of view. And so with that being said, people could counsel you.
If they haven't canceled you for
it
all
was no shade, it was reasonable.
It was shade.
Reasonable.
If they have not canceled you for all the Chick-fil-A that you buy and all of the hatred that you sponsor through that Chick-fil-A, I think that I'm going to be A-okay.
I have sauce for you right now.
Because you eat it every day. You eat it every fucking day. There hasn't been one day we have come on live that you have not had a Chick-fil-A relic in your house. Shame on you. I'm glad you keep your business.
Not a relic, child. You're going to fly the coop eating that chicken.
So for me,
Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you.
For me, the NFL has never been like my source for advocacy or activism. So I think people are putting too much energy and attention to try to see a sports league try to affect change, because at the end of the day, they're profiting majorly off Black bodies, putting them, stressing them out, and like taking their bodies to the extreme. Because if you break it down past like the surface, Black Lives Matter, past like the Me Too movement, all these different layers that they advocate for, look at what they're still doing behind the scenes. Look at what they're still doing administratively. How are they building stadiums in Black and brown communities, forcing people out of their own communities? So the NFL has never been like a ally in my head. They've always been, still oppressors. They just make it look cute for PR reasons. And so I think another thing too is that I think the league knew about these emails deep down, and like they knew about it, but somebody got a hold of those emails, whether it was press or whether it was somebody internally, and threatened to leak them. So they needed to get ahead of it.
Yes, and we talk about the NFL a lot. I mean, well, quite a bit. We talked about race norming a few months ago. We've talked about, now we're talking about these emails. It's like it's a system. I mean, it's a system. And for you to be bold enough to say things like that via email, you didn't care about there being a paper trace. Like if you're gonna be racist, if you're gonna be misogynistic, if you're gonna be sexist, if you're gonna be homophobic, whatever you're gonna be, like, why would you want a paper trail? But that just goes to show you how normalized it must be in order for you to feel comfortable doing that in that way. But I'm glad that the veil is, well, I won't even say the veil is being lifted, because we know that this stuff happens. We know it. So it's good to actually be able to materialize it and to see and not have a shadow of doubt, because of course people always are quick to say, y'all pulling the race card, you pulling the race card, you pulling the race card. But when we see it right in front of our eyes, it's kind of hard to ignore it. And so I'm hoping that, something better will come of this, because one person, resigning from their job or whatever, that's not enough. That does not solve the issue. That's just one person who's probably still making money from the NFL in some sort of way. They just changed the face. And we know that that's how it works, because we've seen it all too often. You might not be, the head coach, but you still, in some way, you're getting your money. You're still able to take care of your family.
And may have been able to keep his ownership rights and stock options and whatever else came with it, to be able to again support his family for generations to come. And you know what? That reminds me of some meme that I saw on social media. When you talk about cancel culture, is not what people are trying to do to Dave Chappelle. Cancel culture is what the NFL did to Colin Kaepernick. That's cancel culture. That is what cancel culture is right then and there. So all these people talking negatively about canceling, where were you when you were saying, when Colin Kaepernick was opting his freedom of speech? Where were these same people defending Dave Chappelle's right to freedom of speech and My Pillow guy's right to freedom of speech? Where were you when it was Colin Kaepernick's right to have freedom of speech? Get out of here with that. And here's another question: does this man Benji have a right to freedom of speech? This is Andy Cohen, right? So we're talking about canceling Christmas, canceling Joe Biden, canceling the NFL, canceling Chick-fil-A, but not if you're Zach Thomas. You're going to keep shoveling it in your mouth. But now it seems as though Bravo wants to cancel Andy Cohen's primetime after show, Watch What Happens Live. Benji, what's going on with this?
So according to media outlets, Bravo execs are not happy with the ratings and the PR for the network. It is apparent that they are contemplating canceling Andy Cohen and also the Watch What Happens Live program that's been going on for, I believe, like 12 or 13 years now. Originally, Andy Cohen did have a say in programming. If you listen to interviews from Bravo Talent, Andy Cohen was the executive vice president of programming for Bravo Network. So he was in control of getting renewed for his own show. So in 2013, he relinquished that power. But from 2013 probably until 2019, that was the prime time for Bravo TV. They had great ratings. They were bringing all these celebrities. But now it seems that Andy Cohen has fizzled out. Personally, I believe he should have been canceled a long time ago. I'm going to ask the crew, what benefit do you see from this show?
Watch What Happened Live hadn't been good since what's her name? Regina King and was drunk on it, and it was
Regina King and Jackie.
Jackie
Harris.
Yes. Jackie Harris. That's the last time it was good for me.
I remember when Titus Burgess was on there and got Andy together.
Oh, right? We got him together. Yes, that was good too.
And then read him on Instagram after for the blood of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's when it's been good. But I also think like it was. I think what is it? The chat room has started been
Bravo
getting
chat
higher
room
ratings than the Watch What Happens Live. but I
Yep.
don't know what happened.
And you
to
know
them
what?
girls.
What else is funny, Zach? They actually took Watch What Happens Live off of the air
For a week.
and
For
for
2
a
weeks.
week, and they ran Bravo Chat Room, which Portia Williams is the executive producer of that show. And it's different because, for one, being in the middle of the pandemic, I think that not having people in the actual studio, I think it makes it less, enjoyable. So I think that, as they continue to come back post-pandemic, if we ever get out of this pandemic, they now have, guests in the studio. I love Watch What Happens Live. I watch it every Sunday when it's my girls on the show. I think it's a great time to really hear what their thoughts are prior to the reunion. You're gonna get you some good shade. You're gonna see some funny games, the polls. I like it. I mean, I can see ratings in general are going down for all shows. And then especially on the Bravo network, they're not getting nearly as much traction as they once did. But Nene said, you never can win when you play dirty. So,
and that's what I was about to say. Do you think
what?
Nene and Mariah got something to do with this?
No, not a lot. But I do
I'm
believe,
working with Sadie.
I don't think a lot, right?
It's
But
a
this is what I do believe. Now, I'm with Darius in terms of liking the guest on the show,
Right.
but I do not like Andy Cohen as host of the show. There are a lot of people now on the TikTok space that give commentary on reality television, and I would actually love to see some of these TikTok people kind of get a chance to host these shows and really make it real reality TV. You have the reality TV fans, and then you have the reality TV stars, and then you have a level of engagement that I think could be really beneficial to Bravo and NBC Universal as a whole. But Andy Cohen's time has come and gone. Andy Cohen has done some things that were detrimental in how he chose to portray individuals and chose to portray entire communities on his platform. He had a chance to meet the assignment and he failed to do so. And I believe that Andy Cohen's time is up. Now, I don't think it's just necessarily Nene and Mariah, but I think it's all of the people that speak out against him and how he runs his business that are hurting where he is now, to where he's now become a very unlikable character in American media. I don't think he's very liked. I don't think he's very popular. Yeah. And it's sad because he is a gay white man, it wasn't hard for people to stop liking him. And so, again, I'm not saying that I'm happy this happened to him. I wish he would have made better decisions. I wish he would have been more strategic. And I wish he would have been ahead of the curve when it came to being a warrior for equity and social justice, as opposed to being someone who just simply fanned the flames and not really participated in the work. Here's another prime example of that. Why have we not had a lesbian housewife? Why have we not had a lesbian housewife? That bothers me. It has always bothered me. And that is, to me,
who's to say we don't?
Wait, we got Portia?
Right. I was like, who's to say we don't?
And Candy.
And right.
Allegedly.
They all say allegedly. They all say, but no, they all say
they swam in the pond.
They all say they swam in the lady pond. But you know what?
I'm talking about someone who is not bisexual, not polysexual. I'm talking about someone who identifies as a same gender loving female who is in a committed relationship with another same gender loving female. That is what I wish I could see. A different portrayal of a housewife on any number of these franchises that have existed. I mean, we even now have the desire for sister wives into the housewives. So you can have sister wives in Salt Lake City, but we can't have just one lesbian on TV.
I believe New Jersey had a lesbian on there, but she wasn't a full-time cast member. She was like a family member that was like a regular of one of the housewives. But the other thing too, that in regards to
you're not talking about Teresa because she gives big dick energy, right?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure.
The other thing about Andy that I don't like is he is not a good interviewer, because it's like he wants to pull out the mess of everybody and try to like you said, stoke the flames, because there's no it's like Perez Hilton with privilege. Almost.
But Benjamin, isn't that good TV? Stroking the flames. But you know what the people want?
There's a way you can do it that is entertaining, that you can get have fun and kiki with people. but then there's a way of making people look like hokey and pokey and all of that on your show, and like humiliating them and making them look embarrassing, because he's exploiting tons and tons, particularly women, on this network, particularly Black women on this network, and portraying them in this like stereotype, but also basically gaslighting them into reactions and then profiting off of it. And he's the one that's making the main profit at the end of the day, because the girls, yes, they make money off the show, but the network is the one that brings them the money. And so at the end of the day, it falls back into that whole systematic play within the entertainment industry and also just in corporate America. And I think Nene is right in her own way, of explaining like certain ways that went on behind the scenes. And then also other people too that aren't on the Housewives franchise, who were on the Bravo network, have spoken out about how Andy is self-serving and only will focus on himself and promoting himself, because at the end of the day, I don't consider Andy Cohen a celebrity. I consider Andy Cohen friends of celebrities that he gets to come on the show and just talk with, because he had, outside of Watch What Happens Live, outside of Bravo Network, and outside of that New Year special, he's nobody.
And that's what Nene told him. Andy, remember, no one knew you until you knew me. I was like, all right, Nene, you better read him. Read that man.
But then also you have to understand that these women, these are their jobs. It's to create TV. And so there are cast members. They refer to each other as cast members. And like, that's their job. It's to stroke the fight and get paid for that check from Bravo TV.
And
I don't think we are really knowing the reality of most of these women who are on these shows.
And we made this discussion last week when we talked about this whole concept about bringing Nicki Minaj actually on as the guest. When we talked about the idea of what they do. At the end of the day, I agree with what you're saying, Benjamin, but I also think, though, you know, we've had this conversation multiple times. Like, you know what you're doing when you go onto his show. It's not like I'm going blind, like, oh, I'm oblivious to what he's going to say, what he's going to do. I'm oblivious to it. Oh my God. You know what you're doing and you know what it brings. And many times some of those people need that, they need that exposure as well to be able to expand and draw a storyline or to have something, to make yourself relevant or do some of those things. So though I do agree that I'm not fully, and I hate to say that, but that also what makes a good interviewer. Because of the fact that, to a degree, because of the fact that you also know how to pull, it's almost, but we also don't know. It kind of goes back to the concept of when you said Nene said that they didn't know you until they knew me, because he knows these people and he knows he knows what to pull, what not to pull, and they keep coming back to it. So it's like, somebody's still benefiting from it. So I'm kind of like. Me personally, I don't care about Andy Cohen one way or another, because I really don't really care about him. Because truth be told, as you said, he doesn't really get. Only thing he's annoying to me personally. But I think people go on there knowing exactly what they're getting, with what they're doing, and they use him just as much as they use him just as much as he uses them.
So I was going to make such a horrible transition into our Black History fact of the day. We do Black History 365 days a year right here. But it's a somber moment. And Zach Thomas, we turn it over to you because Darius has passed the baton for a week. He has passed the baton for 1 week over to you, because we know that this is someone who you care a lot about.
So, as many of you all know, today we lost General Colin Powell. And General Colin Powell was the first Black U.S. Secretary of State. And so that is one of the Black History moments of the day. But the one that I really want to talk about was Dawn Staley. She has become the highest paid Black coach in women's basketball. She works for the University of South Carolina. She signed a 7-year contract worth $22.4 million. This includes her base salary of $1 million per year, with outside compensation starting at $1.9 million the first year and rising by $100,000 each season. Of course, we know her from being the Olympics coach, where she's won, I think, several gold medals with the women's basketball team, as well as a player. And so I wanted to salute this woman, this Black woman who is making strides in history as well today. So yes, that is your Black History moment.
We applaud you, Zach, and thank you for that. Darius, you were going to say?
Make that money, okay? Don't let it make you. You said this is a college?
Yes. She's turned down. She's been offered jobs by NBA teams, but she's like,
I'll be back, y'all. I'm about to go practice. See if I can get me a job, child.
It's too late.
It's too late.
It's a wrap, buddy. It's too late. Your day for that has come and it has gone.
See, that's why you'll be canceled, Zach. That's why you'll be canceled. Let that boy dream.
I'll never cancel Zach. Zach will never be canceled in my book.
But you can continue to watch us on Instagram for the after show where we have 5 new lighthearted topics to talk about. And let's just see if I can say something on that platform that can get me canceled. It has gotten me banned from doing badges for a week. So let's see if it'll get me canceled. I want to take a moment to give a huge recognition to, number one, this being our 52nd show, although we've been on for more than a year. 52 episodes represents 52 weeks. Although we've been on for more than 52 weeks, we took some breaks in between. That's right, Lydia. Winners always find a way. Losers find plenty of reasons, but winners always find a way. One of those great Zach Kirk quotes from back in the day when I served these amazing kids who are now full-ass adults.
Oh, that was one of your students, Zach?
That was one of my babies. Okay. One of my babies remembering a famous classroom quote about losers and winners. I want to say that, and when we speak about winners, I'm talking about our friend and our colleague, CJ. CJ announced to us that he was no longer going to be with us on Five Guys on Live on a regular basis because he is pursuing other opportunities. I want to say that a huge thank you to CJ for being with us for 51 episodes. Darius and I talked about this just a little bit earlier about just, it's not easy every Monday to make this commitment and to be here with you and to read about these topics and to make the time, but we do it out of passion. We do it out of love. CJ will always have a home with the Five Guys. Any episode where he says he wants to join us and he wants to come on and be with us, he is welcome to always come back. And as he ventures out and takes this brand new opportunity he's going to be now doing, I will be there supporting him, and we hope that our Five Guys audience will also be supporting him. He left in the right way. We love him. We adore him. And again, I will always be here for him. So CJ, I don't know if you're watching or if you'll ever see this, but I thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, brother, and I'm proud of you.
Oh, he upstairs.
That's all looking upstairs. Can you hear us, CJ?
Yeah, so, go on and get them. And so we will see you guys shortly on Instagram Live. You can go to any of these Instagrams. Destined to be great. I am Dr. Pickett, King Darius, Benjamin Acosta, or the Zactivist, as we, Lamont says, we'll have you on soon. Everybody.
Thank y'all. Thanks for tuning in.